Sankofa-on-the-Brazos, the Cossi family. Sankofa-on-the-Brazos, celebrating African-American families in Washington County, Texas. The power of Sankofa is to know history. Sankofa-on-the-Brazos examines and researches the past of 6 African-American families with deep roots in Washington County, Texas. It is said the knowledge of the past must never be forgotten. This week, we remember and celebrate the family history of these strong African-American families. In the series, we will use the spirit of the mythical Sankofa bird to examine the lives and historical contributions of 6 Washington County families that live on the Brazos. I'm Rossi Gomez, and a member of the Afro-American Historical and Genealogical Society, Houston Willie Lee Gay H-Town chapter. For the past 20 years, I've been doing family history and genealogy research with emphasis on African-American family history and genealogy. In this presentation, we will explore the family tree of the Cossi family and their existence in Washington County during the 1800s. We will begin with the current Cossi family descendant, the Reverend Calvin Kossi. Reverend Calvin Kossi is a well-respected member of the Brenham community for many years as a pastor, retired educator, and counselor. Reverend Kossi and his late brother Kirkland Kossi learned the importance of hard work and helping others from their parents Sulu and Nelda Johnson Kossi. Kirkland Kossi can be found in various family history records. This is his birth certificate showing that he was born in 1932 in Brenham, Texas, to Sulu Kossi and Nelda Johnson. Military records can be helpful in discovering an ancestor's military service. Kirkland Kossi served in the armed forces, first in the Army and later in the Air Force. The following record provides evidence of his military service. He was stationed at Elson's Air Force Base in Fairbanks, Alaska. Cemetery records can provide confirmation of dates of death. Here's a photo of Kirkland Kossi's tombstone, showing his date of birth in 1932 and his death in 1986. He's buried at the Randall Hill Cemetery. An obituary can be found in the Fairbanks Daily News. It confirms his military service, his mother's name, and as with many records, the spelling of one's name might be incorrect. As previously mentioned, Calvin and Kirkland Kossi's parents were Sulu Kossi and Nelda Johnson. Sulu Kossi was born in 1907 and Nelda Johnson was born in 1910. Sulu Kossi's parents were listed as Richard Kossi and Nettie Woodard. He also had a sister named Claudia Kossi. From oral history and interviews, it was noted that Sulu and Claudia left Brenham, Texas, to live with the family of Jerry and Jane Randall at Randall Hill. This is verified by the 1910 census. It shows Sulu and Claudia in the household of the Randalls, taking on their surname. They're also listed as a son and daughter of the Kossis. It is unknown if the Kossi family was related to the Randall family. Might have been a informal adoption, which was common during that time. This document shows Sulu and Nelda Johnson were married in Washington County in 1931. This is Sulu Kossi's World War II draft card. It gives his date of birth, next to kin, address, and even the original signature. The draft card can also give insight into physical characteristics of our ancestors. Sulu Kossi was listed as a farmer in the census record. He provided turkeys, chickens to the community during Thanksgiving and Christmas. During his lifetime, he was a mason and a hunting guide in the area, and he was often a guide for professional athletes who came to the area. Sulu Kossi died in 1985 and is buried in Randall Hill Cemetery. Sulu Kossi's father, Richard Kossi, was born in 1878. This is a copy of the marriage license when he married Randall in 1898. There was no evidence that Mary Randall was related to Jerry and Jane Randall, who took in Sulu and Claudia Kossi. This is a birth record showing Mary Kossi giving birth to Roy Kossi in 1902 in Brenham, Texas. Richard Kossi was found later marrying Delia Moore in 1908 in Brenham, Texas. Richard Cossi and his wife were noted in the 1910 census living in McClellan County and later returned to Washington County. Richard Cossi's draft card in World War I was also found on the records confirming his wife's name and living in Austin County in 1918. There was no record of Richard Cossi's death, and in the 1930 census, Taylor Cossi was listed as a widow. There was also a Richard Cossi living earlier in the 1800s in Brenham, who could have been the grandfather of Sulu Cossi. This is his 1867 voter's registration record. He was also discovered in the 1880 agricultural census, but there is no evidence that he was the grandfather of Sulu Cossi. Additional records were found in the Washington County archives, which show inconsistencies in the births of Sulu and Claudia Cossi. This is the birth record in 1906 that coincides with the date and birth of Sulu Cossi. The child's name was Sulu Gisti Allen, and the mother's name was Nettie Woodard. The father was listed as Hugh Allen, and the information was recorded by a midwife. Also in 1908, there's a birth record for Cottie Woodard that coincides with the date of birth of Claudia Cossi. The birth mother is Nettie Woodard. The relationship between Richard Cossi and the Nettie Woodard is unknown, or why Sulu and Claudia took on his name. This is an illustration of the Cossi family tree tracing the family to the 1870s. In conclusion, remember, genealogy is science. It's not based on assumptions, requires evidence and proof. After my research was collected and then evaluated, you must come to the conclusions and present work to others to prove. And I've done this here today. I hope this research has been very helpful to living family members. It's been my pleasure to present the results of my research. I want to thank those individuals and organizations for their help and their various support. Thank you.